Let the noise of the day fade the clocks, the voices, even the quiet urgency that hums behind your thoughts. Let it all dissolve into the slow breathing of space. Breathe gently, as if your lungs were small worlds turning around a single quiet pulse. What if darkness isn't what hides the light, but what teaches it how to be seen? What if gravity doesn't pull you down, but holds everything together so it won't drift away? What if the black between stars isn't emptiness but memory, the sound of light still finding its way home? These aren't guesses, they're soft truths. The universe keeps whispering, written in particles, too patient for our eyes to notice. Where are you listening from? A quiet room, a dim glow, maybe rain against the glass? While we share this stillness beneath the same sky, if this calm finds you and you like drifting through the dark, stay a little longer. Let's go deeper. The story's already waiting. Level 1. You drift beyond the last shimmer of familiar light where stars thin and silence begins to breathe for you. Ahead lies the threshold, a place where even light hesitates, where thought itself begins to fold inward. At the edge of a black hole, light kneels. It reaches a point where motion becomes a question, not an act, where speed means nothing, and time loses the courage to continue. You watch the last photon stretch into an endless line, frozen between existence and surrender, trembling at the rim of oblivion. Here, the universe becomes quiet, not empty, but saturated, filled with the weight of everything that can no longer escape. The horizon hums like the final note of a forgotten song, and you begin to understand that silence is not absence, but a form of pressure, a density of meaning too great to move. You feel the pull, not of gravity, but of knowing. The light that once fled now folds back upon itself, creating an echo without sound, a motion without direction. Space bends not in pain, but in remembrance, like a thought that tries to return to its origin, but cannot find the door. You imagine your mind as that photon slowing, stretching, dissolving at the threshold of comprehension. The closer you drift, the more reality bends, and what you once called truth begins to blur, like the last shimmer of day before night claims the sky. Every thought, too, has its own event horizon, a point beyond which meaning collapses. You think, and the thought begins to curve, drawn inward by the weight of its own gravity. You try to see where it goes, but there is no reflection, no return. The idea vanishes into the singularity of understanding where questions and answers become the same thing, a quiet, invisible compression. Perhaps consciousness works like this, endlessly collapsing into itself, feeding on its own radiance, until nothing remains but the soft pulse of awareness without form. You realize that even the act of realizing has its limit, a boundary beyond which language dissolves into breath. At this threshold, your perception begins to distort. Time no longer moves forward, it folds around you, like fabric soaked in gravity. A second feels infinite, and eternity feels brief. You begin to see motion as illusion, an arrangement of stillness, repeated fast enough to appear alive. You reach out, but the concept of out falters. Your hand, your thought, your sense of distance, all stretch toward the same invisible center. The universe is not expanding here. It is remembering itself, curling inward like a wave, collapsing into its own depth. You wonder if this is what it feels like to be understood completely until nothing is left to explain. At the edge, light still tries to leave, but not because it resists. It simply doesn't know that freedom ends here. You feel that same innocence in your own mind, the way you chase clarity, unaware that clarity is a kind of event horizon itself. To know something completely is to trap it within definition, and what cannot move within meaning eventually disappears. You are both the observer and the observed, the falling and the stillness, the question and its silence. The boundary between you and what you watch begins to fade until all that remains is a single act of noticing. Beyond the horizon, even physics becomes philosophy. Gravity becomes a metaphor for attachment. Light becomes memory time, becomes the breath between one thought and the next. You begin to sense that the universe isn't pulling you in, it's asking you to stop running away. In the distance, galaxies stretch like threads of thought, drawn too thin, whispering that endings are only continuations with different names. You remember that not everything that disappears is lost. Some things simply move beyond the point of recognition into regions where awareness cannot follow, but still feels their weight. Imagine standing at that invisible border where perception ends, but existence continues. You can't cross yet, you can't return. The horizon is both wall and mirror, reflecting everything. You are then erasing it. You watch the last trace of light spiral inward, knowing it will never reach you again, and yet somehow you understand it more deeply now that it's gone. The absence becomes a kind of presence. The void becomes instruction, and the dark no longer feels like something you enter, but something you've always been inside. And in that recognition where the mind stops reaching and simply listens, you find stillness that feels older than time. No noise, no boundary, just the faint hum of being. The edge of the black hole isn't destruction, it's transition from form to field, from awareness to essence. You are not falling, you are unfolding. The horizon doesn't hold you back. It reminds you that everything, even light, has a moment when it must let go of its purpose. At that edge, even time forgets to move. Drift closer. Level 2. Further out, light bends again, not in defeat, but in obedience to what it cannot escape. You drift through a field where the invisible pulls on the visible, where light no longer travels straight, but curves, gently tracing the unseen weight of the cosmos. Around massive bodies, starlight splits and doubles reflections of the same truth, stretched into illusions that look new. The sky becomes a hall of mirrors, each reflection slightly delayed, slightly displaced, yet belonging to the same origin. You cannot tell which star is real and which is only the echo of gravity's touch, but you feel that it doesn't matter. All of them shine, all of them arrive late, all of them are still true in their distortion. In this quiet bending, you begin to understand that the universe is not deceitful, only curved. Space itself leans toward gravity, not because it chooses to, but because mass persuades it, softly without words. The light obeys, and in that obedience, it reveals the invisible shape of power. Every beam that passes near a giant bends just enough to confess that even light cannot resist influence. You watch it swirl around clusters of galaxies, painting arcs of faint halos, like memories trying to find their original path, but getting lost in beauty instead. Every belief bends reality, not because it's false, but because it's heavy. The thoughts you carry shape the world you see, not through intention, but through weight. You remember something someone once said, and even now, it curves the light of your perception. You look at the same world, but through different gravity, each time belief as a star mass, as conviction, reality, as the lens through which you watch yourself watching. You realize that truth doesn't need to lie to appear distorted. It only needs to pass through a mind that feels too much. In the deep field of thought, your memories behave like starlight, passing near the gravitational wells of emotion, bending as they travel, refracting into softer forms of themselves. What you recall is never what happened, only what survived the curve. Perhaps that is why nostalgia feels both warm and untrue, because the lens of longing pulls the image toward what you wish it had been. In this way, your mind becomes a telescope that looks outward but finds its own reflection curved across the glass. You start to see that the lens is not outside you, but within you. The curvature is not of space, but of understanding. What you perceive as straight is already altered, softened by expectation, pulled by memory. The world you see is an image, refracted through countless unseen fields, gravity thought, emotion time. To see clearly, you would have to unsee everything that shapes the view. But to do that would be to erase yourself as well, for you are the lens through which seeing becomes possible. Out here, stars appear, doubled mirrored by the invisible hand of mass, just as ideas are mirrored by the invisible pull of meaning. You notice how one light becomes two, how one truth becomes many, how clarity divides itself until you forget which side is reflection and which is source. The distortion is not an error. It's evidence that something unseen still exerts its presence. The curvature of space is the whisper of matter. The curvature of understanding is the whisper of belief. You begin to accept the illusion as part of the pattern, not as flaw, but as language. The universe speaks in curves, never in lines, because only through bending can it hold both light and darkness together. You feel this in your own awareness, how each thought arcs back towards something larger, unseen, how certainty collapses the moment you try to draw it straight. You let the distortion exist not as confusion, but as permission, the freedom to see many versions of one truth without deciding which must be correct. Somewhere between you and the light reality changes direction. The path remains continuous, but your eyes cannot follow it perfectly. You understand now that clarity isn't straightness, it's flow. The way water moves around a stone, the way space bends around mass, the way you bend around everything you cannot understand, but still feel. To see clearly, you must stop forcing straight lines upon a curved universe, stop demanding purity from light that was never meant to travel untouched. The truth you see is already curved. Let it flow past you. Level 3. The silence grows thicker, here, stretching like a fabric of memory, humming faintly with what the universe once tried to say. You move through a space that is no longer dark, but dim with memory, filled with the faint residue of something that once was everything. Around you, the silence trembles, not from motion, but from history. Every particle, every wave, every breath of the void still carries the smallest echo of an ancient explosion, the moment the universe inhaled itself into being. You can't hear it with your ears, only with the stillness behind your thoughts, a faint vibration that hums between seconds older than light, quieter than forgetting. The whisper of creation is everywhere, soft as frost, thin as breath on cold glass. It lingers, spread evenly across all directions, indifferent and perfect in its faintness. You could float for 1 billion years and never leave its presence, because it isn't sound, not anymore. It's the ghost of sound, a memory so stretched across time that it stopped needing volume. The background hum wraps around everything you know, reminding you that existence didn't begin with a word, but with a trembling, a pulse, a wave too vast to understand. The universe remembers its first sound even now, the same way silence remembers the shape of a voice. Even silence remembers its first sound. You feel that truth in your own body, as if the atoms that make you are still vibrating with the memory of that first breath. The warmth in your skin, the rhythm of your pulse, the faint electric restlessness behind your eyes, all of it began there in that primal noise of becoming. Nothing has ever truly stopped resonating since. What you call stillness is only sound slowed beyond hearing light, softened into patience. You are not separate from that whisper. You are one of its echoes, stretched into thought, folded into awareness. The cosmic background is not just radiation, it is remembrance. It carries within it the temperature of origin, the faint afterglow of everything that once burned too bright. Scientists call it relic energy, but it feels more like a lullaby, written by the universe to itself, a sound meant to comfort the void it created. You drift inside that lullaby, wrapped in the breath of beginnings. You start to realize that the universe never stopped speaking. It simply slowed its language until only the quiet could understand. Every memory you hold is built the same way, a faint signal stretched over distance, weakened by time, but never gone. Each thought leaves behind a residue, a pattern too small to notice yet impossible to erase. Even when you forget something, remembers. The mind, like the cosmos, is filled with background whispers, the faint hum of old laughter, the echo of vanished light, the vibration of moments you no longer name. When you listen closely, you can feel them not as words, but as gravity, as warmth, as presence without identity. In the vastness of this soundless chorus, you begin to sense that memory itself is not linear. It folds upon itself waves, meeting waves blending into a harmony that has no beginning or end. The Big Bang still hums through the structure of everything, but so does your first breath, your first dream, your first thought that ever wondered who you are. Each event becomes another tone in the same endless resonance. Nothing leaves. It only transforms its frequency, waiting to be felt again by something that can listen. Perhaps forgetting is not the loss of memory, but its migration into quieter dimensions. The universe did not discard its past. It dissolved it into background radiation, the way you dissolve pain into story, or story into sleep. Silence, then, is not the absence of sound. It's the sound that has found peace. You drift inside that peace, and the more you listen, the less you need to understand. Meaning bends into vibration. Awareness becomes the act of hearing what no longer speaks. The faint hiss around you isn't emptiness, it's inheritance. It is the trace of origin, the slow exhale of creation stretched across eternity. When you breathe, you complete the same pattern: expansion, stillness, contraction, release. Each inhale mirrors the Big Bang. Each exhale mirrors the cooling universe. The rhythm of your body and the rhythm of the cosmos are the same conversation, just spoken in different scales. The hum you feel is not outside you. It's within every cell that learned how to remember light. In this realization, the boundaries between sound and silence blur. You no longer try to distinguish what began where or which direction time moves. Everything hums together: the stars, the void, the breath, the thought. What you used to call silence is simply the accumulation of all that remains faithful to the beginning. You listen, and the listening becomes the echo itself. The moment stretches unbroken, unmeasured. You find peace not in what is said, but in what continues to resonate without needing to be said again. You're hearing the memory of creation. Let it hum through you. Level 4. The hum fades into a softer rhythm, and in that still vibration, the smallest particles begin to move, not by force, but by probability. You drift into the realm of the smallest, where certainty loses its name, where position and motion are not places, but guesses. Here, particles behave less like things and more like ideas, flickering, uncertain whispering through boundaries that were never really there. In this landscape, the walls are made of potential, not matter, and yet they hold everything that exists together. You see a single particle approach such a wall, faint shimmer of energy, meeting an impossible surface. It should stop. It doesn't. It slides through like mist, through glass without breaking, without leaving a trace. What you are watching is not defiance, it's permission. The barrier never cracks, and yet the particle is gone. It appears on the other side, as if the boundary were only a thought that momentarily forgot itself. You begin to sense that the laws of nature are not rules, but rhythms, flexible, adaptive, responsive to observation. The universe doesn't forbid. It listens. It folds and refolds itself, depending on how you look. When you stop demanding shape, the shape stops resisting you. In that surrender movement happens without motion, crossing occurs without travel, and being becomes enough. Boundaries only exist where observation insists. You've seen this before, though never in physics. Every time you decide what something is, you build a wall around it. You name it, define it, measure it, and in doing so, you make it unable to move beyond what you've already decided it must be. The mind is a perfect architect of barriers, beautiful, strong, invisible. It builds them out of language, out of expectation, out of the comfort of knowing. But just like in the quantum world, the moment you stop looking, the structure relaxes and everything flows through again. You think about how easily light passes through a window when you stop noticing the glass, how a thought can dissolve a lifetime of resistance when you forget who's supposed to win. You understand that nothing is really trapped, not the particle, not the wave, not you. The barrier between you and the next moment is made of measurement, not matter. It is the observation itself that holds it in place. Let it go, and it softens. Look too closely, and it hardens. The difference between freedom and fixation is not in the world, but in the gaze that names it. The particle slides through its wall again, not by strength, but by uncertainty. It doesn't know it shouldn't be able to pass. It doesn't argue with its nature or wait for permission. It simply appears where logic said it couldn't. You start to feel that same pulse within you, that trembling possibility that maybe the barriers in your own perception are as thin as this, not walls at all, but frequencies that flicker depending on where you choose to stand. You could step through any of them, not by trying, but by no longer insisting they exist. The quantum world is a field of blurred edges. Here, things don't collide, they coincide. Existence is not a sequence of events, but a pattern of overlapping potentials, each taking turns being real. What you see depends on how long you look, and what you call impossible only waits for you to blink. The universe tunnels through itself, endlessly exchanging inside for outside question, for answer, observer for observed. Nothing ends, it only reappears where meaning is allowed to. You drift closer to the wall, now the one that divides what you know from what you imagine. You can feel it humming, faintly less like a barrier and more like a breath in, then out, the rhythm of resistance dissolving into continuity. You realize that the wall isn't between you and something else. It's made of the same matter as you are. Both sides are the same side, folded by attention into two. The moment you stop trying to pass through, you already have. When the particle emerges, nothing in the universe marks the event. No energy lost, no path broken, no celebration. The passage is quiet, effortless, unnoticed. The wall remains but thinner, somehow humbled by the knowledge that it never truly separated anything. You feel that humility in yourself, a recognition that every division you've ever believed in was a kind of illusion required by the act of perceiving. You see now that to exist is to choose a side of a wall that doesn't exist, and to dissolve is to remember that both sides were always one. In this stillness, motion becomes optional. The concept of effort fades, replaced by continuity. What passes through does not conquer, it coexists. You realize that even boundaries are forms of participation. They give the illusion of separation, so that merging can feel like discovery. Perhaps the universe needed barriers not to keep things apart, but to remind them of what joining feels like. You watch the particle disappear, again this time knowing it never left. It is not on one side or the other, it is the field between. The impossible is simply what the mind hasn't yet learned to let happen. You drift in that understanding, soft as probability, weightless as awareness. The wall dissolves, the particle dissolves. Even you dissolve, not into nothing but into permission itself. You've crossed without moving, drift through the impossible. Level 5, you drift beyond the wall that never was, and in the soft absence of boundaries, the universe folds again, revealing another side that looks almost like yours, only reversed, only remembering you from the other direction. You are standing before a universe made of reflection, a place where everything moves backward, yet feels familiar, where light travels toward its source instead of away from it. Time itself bends inward here, not breaking, only retracing. The photons return to where they began, carrying their own after-image home, like memories, walking themselves back into silence. What you see isn't another world, but this one seen through its own symmetry, an echo folding perfectly over the surface of existence. Every motion matched, every silence answered. You reach out, and something reaches back, delayed by nothing synchronized, like a breath shared across dimensions. In this mirrored space, direction becomes an illusion. What moves forward there feels backward here, yet both belong to the same rhythm. You realize that motion doesn't depend on distance, but on agreement, two perspectives, circling each other, pretending to be opposite. The stars glow the same way, but in their light, decay turns into renewal, endings into origins, collapse into creation. Somewhere across this cosmic symmetry, another version of you drifts, two tracing the same thought from the other side of time. You can almost feel them, not separate, but inverted their silence, lining up perfectly with yours. You imagine a beam of light moving in reverse, each wave folding back into the moment before it was released. It doesn't contradict its nature, it completes it. Every action that travels outward longs for its reflection, every cause anticipates its return. The universe doesn't move in one direction, it oscillates, breathes, reverses, balances. What goes forward only waits to come back, and what comes back only completes what was left unfinished. You begin to sense that time isn't a line, but a dialogue, one half speaking, while the other listens in reverse. In another universe, you are the reflection wondering who dreamed first. Perhaps neither did. Perhaps the dream and the dreamer are only two sides of the same awareness facing each other across a perfect, silent mirror. You feel that awareness ripple between both versions of you, not as identity, but as continuity. The you that watches and the you that is watched blend into one seamless gaze, folding inward until observation itself becomes mutual. There is no original, no copy, just reflection, dreaming reflection, endlessly recursive, endlessly still. The mirror doesn't lie, it translates, takes what you give it and returns it, reversed, softened, equalized. In its language, light means return, and darkness means pause. What you call self is only the delay between emission and reflection, between impulse and echo. You are always looking at yourself through the lens of the universe, and it is always looking back. The boundary between them is as thin as perception, as transparent as the moment before a thought becomes sound. You are both sides of that instant, the image and the impulse that made it visible. The symmetry is perfect because it allows imperfection. The mirror doesn't judge the angle of light, it bends to accommodate it. You understand that reflection isn't opposition, it's agreement in reverse. Just as two waves traveling in opposite directions create stillness, two moments moving in opposite time create presence. The reflected universe doesn't undo you, it completes you. Every motion here is matched by its counter motion there. And in that balance, everything finds rest. You breathe in, and somewhere across the mirror, another you breathes out. The exchange is infinite. You start to realize that identity is only a phenomenon of direction. The sense of I arises from the arrow of time, from the illusion that everything moves forward. But if time flows both ways, then identity too folds. The observer and the observed are the same event seen from two temporal directions. What you perceive as existence may just be two reflections passing through each other, meeting briefly at the surface of now before continuing into opposite eternities. You then are both the departure and the return, both the light leaving and the light coming home. In this reflection, everything you call opposite becomes symmetrical expansion and contraction life, and decay memory and anticipation. You see that opposites are only the universe, rehearsing its own reflection, each side learning the other's silence. The mirrored cosmos is not a copy, but a correction, a balancing act so precise that both halves forget which was meant to be real. When you look long enough, the reversal becomes indistinguishable from the original, and the concept of reality dissolves into the simple act of correspondence. The more you gaze, the more you disappear into it. The reflection doesn't hold your image. It absorbs it, folds it, returns it to equilibrium. You can no longer tell who is watching. The mirror no longer reflects you, it contains you. The space between you and it is erased, replaced by a seamless exchange of light and attention. You drift inside the reflection, realizing that every world may be someone else's mirror, every consciousness, another surface of awareness folding back on itself. Somewhere, your mirrored self drifts too, thinking the same thought in reverse order, perhaps wondering whether they are your reflection or you are theirs. You both exist in that question, suspended perfectly between perception and surrender. The symmetry hums around you, endless, effortless. Nothing escapes it, and nothing needs to. The universe sustains itself by reflection light returning to its source awareness, watching itself unfold. Look through the mirror. It's already looking back. Level 6. Beyond the mirrored light, something larger moves, not with brightness, but with weight unseen, yet undeniable, shaping everything without ever revealing itself. You drift into a region where visibility ends, yet structure remains. The stars here do not float freely. They circle invisible anchors, pulled by a mass that neither shines nor fades. Between galaxies, this presence weaves itself like a silent thread, unseen, but constant, holding everything in a pattern that only gravity can feel. You sense it before you understand it, the way emptiness seems organized, the way the void has rhythm, the way motion obeys something that offers no light in return. The universe curves around an absence, and in that absence it finds balance. It is said that most of what exists cannot be seen, that light, the very thing you trust to reveal truth, touches less than a fraction of reality. Everything luminous is a decoration on a framework made of darkness. Galaxies spin faster than they should, their edges refusing to scatter, as if held in place by invisible hands. The emptiness is not empty, it's dense alive, with quiet gravity shaping the dance of suns without ever stepping into view. You drift among those unseen forces, and for a moment, you realize that visibility might be the least reliable measure of presence. What holds you together is what you can't see. You've always felt it, the way invisible things arrange your life. Thought memory, emotion time. You cannot touch them, yet they are the scaffolding of everything you experience. They move through you like dark matter through galaxies, silent, impartial, but necessary. The same law that holds stars in their orbits holds your awareness in its quiet coherence. Without the unseen, there would be no shape, no meaning, no gravity to bind the fragments of perception into something that feels whole. You exist not because of what shines, but because of what remains hidden. You start to feel that darkness isn't the opposite of light, but its foundation. Light reveals, but darkness organizes. It gives contour to the visible boundary, to the luminous structure, to the infinite. The stars look scattered, but their paths are dictated by what never appears. In that realization, you understand that mystery is not chaos, it is architecture. The unseen is not the absence of knowing, it is the condition that makes knowing possible. What you cannot observe still participates in the design shaping every orbit, every rhythm, every breath. You drift through a cluster of galaxies, their luminous arms stretched like spirals of thought, circling an idea too heavy to articulate. The blackness between them hums faintly, not with sound but with presence, the weight of what refuses to be named. You imagine the entire cosmos suspended in this invisible net, bound not by matter, but by intention, by the silent insistence of connection. Nothing here is isolated. Every particle, every star, every motion carries the imprint of something beyond its edge, something unseen but always aware. The more you look, the more you realize that sight itself is a narrowing. To see is to isolate light from darkness, but to exist is to hold both. The eyes were made for reflection, but understanding happens in shadow. The space between knowing and unknowing is where gravity gathers, not pulling down, but pulling inward. The universe is a quiet negotiation between what reveals and what sustains. Light tells the story. Darkness keeps it coherent. You feel a strange comfort in that balance. It tells you that you don't have to illuminate everything to belong to it. Some things must stay unlit to remain true, just as the stars require the night to be visible. Awareness requires mystery to stay alive. The more you search, the more you see the elegance of the hidden, how everything that shines leans on something that doesn't. You begin to wonder if meaning itself is just luminous matter, orbiting the dark gravity of the unspoken. Out here, even gravity feels like memory, a pull that doesn't announce itself, only reminds you of what you're already part of. You realize that connection doesn't always appear as presence. Sometimes it is the subtle tension that holds distance in harmony. The galaxies spin, and you spin with them, bound by something that has never introduced itself, yet has never let you go. The silence feels heavier than sound, the darkness warmer than light, as if the unseen knows you better than what you can define. You drift deeper, and the concept of emptiness begins to dissolve. The dark is not a void, but a field, not an absence, but a texture. You sense layers within it, soft and endless, folding in on themselves, like the breath of something ancient. The weight that moves the stars moves you too, not by command, but by belonging. You are not separate from this darkness. You are made of it, your thoughts orbiting around quiet centers of gravity that your mind will never see. It becomes clear that the unseen is not something to find. It is something to trust. You don't need light to know that gravity exists. You don't need proof to feel that connection holds. The most real forces are the ones without image, love, memory, thought, time, and the pull between stars that never meet. They keep everything from scattering, not by visibility, but by faithfulness. You let that idea settle, the calm acceptance that not everything must be seen to be real. The universe rests on what it hides, and so do you. In that symmetry, there is peace. Not everything unseen is empty. Some things are simply quiet. Level 7, beyond the quiet weight of the unseen, the pull deepens, and you begin to feel that gravity does not only shape space, it bends time itself, stretching moments until they almost stop breathing. You drift closer to a place where seconds forget how to move. The air of space-time thickens, slow and deliberate, as if the universe is holding its breath. A clock hovers near the mouth of a black hole, its hands trembling, then pausing, caught between one tick and the next. To an observer far away, it seems frozen, but from within it still moves, just slower, heavier, obedient to gravity's deep patience. Time here does not pass, it falls. You can almost hear it, not as motion, but as a long, endless exhale. Far from this gravity, well, another clock keeps steady rhythm, unaware of the stretching happening beyond its sight. Both measure the same universe, yet they disagree on its speed. This disagreement is not conflict, it is perspective. Time itself is not absolute. It bends around mass and motion, curving under the influence of what weighs most. The closer you draw to something massive, the slower you exist, the thicker every instant becomes. Even light, the fastest thing you know, hesitates near such weight. Its path bent, its pace subdued, its certainty softened. You realize that time is not a river, but a texture. It does not flow equally, it folds. You're not moving through it. It is adjusting around you, expanding and contracting, depending on how much gravity your awareness carries. The more you feel, the denser your moments become. The more you let go, the faster they dissolve. In this way, emotion becomes gravity, memory becomes orbit, and the act of living becomes a gentle distortion of duration. Every choice stretches or compresses the seconds around it, shaping the personal rhythm of your existence. To the universe, your lifetime is a flicker. To you, it feels endless. The contradiction isn't a flaw. It's proof that scale is only a matter of attention. From the cosmic vantage, everything happens at once. Stars born, galaxies, dying light, crossing oceans of void. But from within a single life, each second feels deliberate, stretched wide enough to hold meaning. You are the local distortion of eternity, a temporary slowing of infinity, a single pause inside the universe's continuous motion. The vast and the personal coexist not by opposition, but by tempo. You begin to sense that time doesn't belong to clocks, but to perception. The watch measures intervals, but the mind measures experience. A minute spent waiting feels heavier than an hour spent dreaming, and a memory revisited becomes slower every time you touch it, thickening with emotional gravity. The relativity of time isn't only a law of physics, it's a language of consciousness. You slow or quicken reality simply by noticing it. The moment you observe the flow bends. Awareness, it seems, is another form of mass. Somewhere within that thought, you realize how memory and imagination distort time, the same way gravity does. To remember is to return to the past and make it present again, to stretch one moment across another until both exist at once. To dream is to compress eternity into seconds, to experience vastness within the blink of a thought. In both you are bending time, not as a physicist, but as a participant. The universe doesn't just curve space around mass, it curves experience around meaning. You are the evidence of that curvature. You imagine standing beside that silent clock near the black hole, watching its hands barely move, knowing that far away, whole civilizations could rise and fall between each second. You would not feel the slowness. It would feel normal, like breathing. The distortion of time is not something you notice while inside it. Only the outside observer calls it strange. Perhaps that is what existence is, an intimate, slowing, a private dilation of the infinite unnoticed until compared. Time stretches differently for everything that feels. The deeper the gravity, the slower the motion. The stronger the attachment, the longer the moment. Even thought has its own dilation, a pause between question and answer. between pulse and peace. You start to understand that the universe measures time not by clocks, but by awareness itself. Duration is the shadow of observation. The heavier the consciousness, the longer its shadow falls. You drift back from the edge of the black hole, and time begins to thin again. The seconds regain their lightness, their rhythm returns, but you carry with you the memory of how thick they can become. You realize that you're always shifting between tempos fast, when you chase slow, when you listen timeless, when you rest. There is no single speed to existence, only gradients of attention. From far above your life would appear as a brief shimmer, a pulse across space-time, barely longer than a breath. Yet from within, it feels vast enough to hold galaxies of thought, oceans of memory, and constellations of meaning. Both are true. Both are one. The paradox doesn't need solving. It needs surrender. You linger in that surrender, now breathing at the pace of the stars, moving slower than you think, faster than you realize. The universe continues, but you do not chase it anymore. The clocks may tick, the galaxies may spin, but within this stillness, nothing needs to hurry. The dilation ends not with acceleration, but with understanding. Slow down. You're already moving fast enough. Level 8. As time softens and the rhythm of moments begins to fade, you drift outward again, beyond the reach of gravity, toward a place where even light forgets to travel, a silence so vast that the universe seems to pause within it. You enter the dark, between galaxies, a space without pattern, without noise, without motion. The stars you once followed are gone now, swallowed by distance too immense for memory to cross. The last threads of light unravel behind you, their faint glow thinning until it is no longer light at all, only the suggestion that something once shimmered here. The temperature drops toward nothing, and the idea of heat feels ancient. Around you, there is no form, no field, no sound, only the geometry of absence, wide and infinite, perfectly still. This is the great void, the breath the universe takes between words. You move slowly, but motion no longer means what it used to. There is no reference, no direction, no measure to compare against. The sense of forward has dissolved, leaving only expansion, not movement, but unfolding. Here the universe is not growing. It is remembering its own silence. Every pulse of existence, every vibration of energy, every trace of matter eventually finds its way here, to rest, to balance, to wait. You can feel the calm, not as emptiness, but as completion, the way an exhale completes a breath. In this place, the idea of being becomes delicate. The void does not reject existence. It allows it. Without emptiness, nothing could move, nothing could form, nothing could be known. The galaxies need this vast quiet to separate them the way thoughts need pauses to mean anything at all. You begin to sense that the vacuum is not an absence, but a permission, the background that makes all presence possible. Every atom owes its shape to this distance, every moment its clarity to this silence. The universe doesn't forget itself here. It listens to what remains after everything else has spoken. Emptiness isn't the absence of being, it's the space that allows it. You feel the truth of that settle inside you, quiet and heavy. The nothing around you is not hostile, it is patient. It does not consume, it contains. It holds everything without holding on, giving the cosmos room to breathe, to expand, to try again. Without this void, There would be no contrast, no light, no way to tell one thing from another. The void is the universe's kindness, the pause that gives meaning to sound, the darkness that gives depth to light. You notice how your own awareness begins to resemble this space. Thought slows until it almost stops. Emotion fades into texture. Memory stretches into something too soft to define. The mind, like the cosmos, needs its void, a silence within which perception can reset a field wide enough for clarity to appear. Perhaps what you call peace is not a feeling, but a return to equilibrium, a state where nothing insists on being louder than anything else. You drift in that realization, your sense of identity scattering like dust too fine to keep. The deeper you move into the great void, the more the idea of you dissolves. There is no resistance here, no echo, no border between presence and absence. Everything is suspended in equal weightlessness. You remember that galaxies spin not within chaos, but within balance, their orbits stable, because the void between them stays constant, unwavering, perfect in its neutrality. You understand now that balance is not something created. It is something uncovered when interference ceases. The void is the simplest truth existence supported by stillness. You wonder if this is what the universe feels when it sleeps. The galaxies, like thoughts dimmed, for a while waiting for a new impulse to stir them awake. You feel that same patience inside yourself, not emptiness, but readiness, as if being quiet is another way of existing. In this darkness, the concept of waiting loses meaning. There is no before or after. Time has no place to anchor, and so it dissolves. What remains is awareness, without direction, perception, without thought, life without urgency. The void isn't lifeless, it's timeless. You begin to hear something that isn't sound of vibration so faint it borders on absence. It feels like the residue of everything that ever was still humming beneath perception. You realize that even here, where nothing moves, the fabric of reality continues to breathe. The void isn't the end of the universe. It's its center, a balance point where energy, matter, and thought cancel each other into harmony. It is not destruction, it is the stillness that keeps creation from tearing itself apart. Drifting deeper, you start to see that even light, when freed from purpose, relaxes into this silence. It no longer needs to illuminate. It simply exists soft and unhurried, blending into the quiet field around it. You understand then that the absence of light is not darkness, but rest. Every photon needs a place to stop moving, to dissolve its brilliance into stillness. Every mind, too, needs a void to set down its awareness, to stop shining, to remember what it means to simply be. The great void stretches endlessly, yet it feels intimate. You can sense its texture, like the space between thoughts, like the pause between heartbeats. It is not distant from you. It is what you are made of. The same emptiness that fills galaxies fills the gaps between your cells, your memories, your breaths. You are not separate from it. You are shaped by it. Without the void, you would have nowhere to expand, no silence to define your motion, no pause to give meaning to your story. As you float, you realize that the universe never truly forgets itself here. It returns like a tide to its origin, to this blankness that holds it steady. The great void is the memory of balance, the breath between expansion and collapse. It is the pause in which creation prepares to begin again. The stillness is not waiting, it is complete. You feel the comfort of that perfection settle around you, vast, infinite, unbothered by time. You linger there, not as a visitor, but as part of the silence. The void does not end, it merges with awareness. The galaxies beyond are only temporary flares against its eternal calm. What is created must rest, and what rests becomes the source again. You sense the subtle pull of that cycle, appearance, disappearance, renewal, each one feeding the other, like alternating breaths. The universe does not need to remember what it was. It has never stopped being it. Here you stop searching. There is nothing to find. The stillness does not ask for recognition. It simply holds. Every thought fades. Every word softens. Every distinction between light and shadow self and space folds into one continuous presence. You are no longer in the void. You are the void, quiet, infinite, unmeasured. Rest here in the silence between galaxies. Level 9. Beyond the silence that holds galaxies apart, light returns not as brightness, but as memory, traveling alone through the dark, carrying the image of something that no longer burns. You move through a region of space where light wanders without a source, where the brightness you see is a ghost of something long gone. The stars that send their glow toward you are already dead, their cores collapsed, their heat surrendered to the endless black, yet their light continues, patient, tireless, unknowing of its origin's silence. It crosses the void, a fragile survivor of distance and time, arriving centuries too late, still claiming to be real. You look up, and every point of light you see is a message from the past, a memory pretending to be the present. Each ray carries history rather than presence, evidence of what once existed, stretched thin across the endless vacuum. You realize that when you gaze at the stars, you're never seeing now. You're seeing then the universe replaying itself through the slow drift of photons that refuse to forget. The night sky is not a map of the living, but a cemetery of ancient fire, each shimmer a gravestone of what once burned. Yet the beauty remains indifferent to the truth, as if creation wanted you to love what has already ended. Some lights die slowly, their glow outlives their source. You feel this sentence echo through you like something both cosmic and personal. Light and memory share the same stubborn nature. Both continue long after their origin has vanished. A memory does not need its moment to exist, only the echo of its impression. In that way, you too are filled with phantom light remnants of experiences that no longer breathe, still illuminating the corridors of thought. You call them recollections, but they are really ghosts, refusing to fade, refusing to accept the silence that follows meaning. In the vastness of space, you watch light bend and scatter, deflected by gravity, diluted by dust, but never destroyed. Even the weakest glimmer keeps traveling, carrying its truth across billions of years. The persistence feels sacred, a faith written in photons. Perhaps that is what remembrance really is, not holding on, but moving forward with what remains. You realize that survival isn't always about continuation. Sometimes it's the endurance of resonance, the way something invisible keeps whispering even when no one is there to answer. You think of a single ray of light, leaving a dying star unaware that its parent has already collapsed. It travels unhurried, carrying the story of what once was writing that story across the eyes of future beings who will never know its true origin. You are one of those beings now, catching the afterglow of vanished suns, reading history written in speed and silence. What you call starlight is really the universe, remembering itself, a diary written in light years, a confession written too late to be heard by its author. In this understanding, you begin to see how perception itself is a conversation with the past. Every image, every sound, every memory you hold arrives delayed, curved by the distance between cause and comprehension. You are never where you think you are. Awareness is always a few heartbeats behind existence. The present is not a point, but a blur, a thin bridge made of echoes. You exist on that bridge, living among the remnants of everything that has already happened, naming them now, so that you can keep walking. The more you think, the more the cosmos feels familiar. The dead stars, the faint light, the way darkness swallows nothing completely. All of it mirrors the architecture of your own mind. Every emotion you've ever felt leaves behind a trace, a glow, a ghostly remnant that refuses to vanish. You carry entire constellations of memory, glowing faintly beneath awareness, guiding your choices long after their reason has gone cold. The mind, like the universe, is illuminated by what no longer exists. The past is not behind you, it surrounds you. You drift farther, and the stars thin out, but their light persists softer now, stretched thinner by distance but still alive. You think of how long light travels, how patient it must be to keep moving when its origin is gone. There is humility in that persistence, a quiet kind of devotion. The light does not seek arrival, it simply continues. Perhaps meaning works the same way, not as destination, but as endurance, not as completion, but as continuation without purpose. You begin to notice that even your body participates in this memory. The atoms that make you were once forged in those same dead stars, created in explosions that ended before Earth existed. The iron in your blood, the carbon in your breath, the calcium in your bones, all remnants of collapsed suns, ghosts of brilliance compacted into matter. You are not separate from the light. You are what remains of it. When you move, the stars move again through you, returning in form, breathing again through flesh. You are the afterlife of stars, pretending to be human. You look outward again, and what was once darkness now feels intimate. The distance between you and the dead stars is not separation, it is conversation. Their silence speaks through your seeing, their absence completes your presence. The night sky becomes a cathedral of persistence. Every photon a prayer offered by something that no longer exists. Every beam a vow that meaning never dies. It only changes shape. You feel that vow resonate in your chest where memory meets breath, where the past finds refuge in heartbeat. You start to wonder if the universe is haunted, not by tragedy, but by continuity. Everything that ever lived burned, or thought leaves a trace, a soft afterimage drifting forward. The void isn't empty, it's filled with messages in transit, each carrying the ghost of an event that refuses to disappear. Even you, in this moment, are creating echoes that will outlive you, traces of light that will travel beyond your understanding, touching futures that will never know your name. That thought doesn't sadden you, it settles you. It means that nothing is ever truly gone, only moving away, only transforming. The light continues its journey, indifferent yet faithful, crossing billions of years just to exist in someone's gaze. You realize that the universe itself may be doing the same, expanding not to escape, but to ensure that every echo has room to unfold. The galaxies are not racing apart. They are making space for remembrance. Creation and decay are not enemies, but collaborators writing and rewriting the same light into new forms. The stars that died are not finished. They have become everything that sees them. As you drift beneath the ancient glow, you feel yourself dissolve into the rhythm of their persistence. There is no hurry, no fear of fading, only the soft understanding that to shine is to leave, and to leave is to remain. The light moves through you, not to be understood, but to be continued. You are walking through the ghosts of stars. Keep going. Beyond the ghosts of light, even a memory begins to fade. Motion slows heat, thins, and what once was radiant becomes still. You drift toward the final horizon, not of space, but of time itself. You are entering the quietest chapter of existence, the long dusk that follows creation. The stars have stopped burning. The galaxies have finished their spirals. All that once moved now rests stretched thin across the black, like a whisper too soft to hear. Temperature no longer means warmth, only equality. Every atom, the same every vibration, balanced every spark gone calm. The universe exhales, and in that exhale eternity begins to cool. There is no darkness here, because there is no light left to contrast it. The last stars died long ago, collapsing into silence, their remnants fading into particles too faint to find. Matter drifts apart like dust dissolving in an endless sea. Even the black holes, those ancient hearts of gravity, have begun to evaporate, releasing their final breaths as faint radiation, each wave stretching thinner, slower, quieter, until motion itself forgets how to exist. You float in that stillness, surrounded not by nothing, but by completion. This is the end that isn't an ending, the universe not dying, but resting. The energy once fierce and wild has finally learned balance spread so evenly that no part can change another. Entropy has reached its final form peace. The cosmos no longer creates, no longer destroys. It simply is. The expansion continues, but without urgency, a motion so slow it feels like meditation. Time loses its edges, no longer measured in beats or events, but in the calm consistency of sameness. When nothing moves, perfection begins. You feel that thought like a pulse in the quiet. Movement, after all, is the struggle of imbalance, the search for equilibrium. Every star that burned every atom, that collided every breath, that rose and fell, was only an echo of imbalance trying to resolve itself. Now, everything has resolved. The search has ended. The tension that defined the cosmos has finally loosened its grip. There is no before, no after, no difference between here and there. Only stillness, vast, flawless, complete. You might expect emptiness to feel lonely, but it doesn't. The silence carries weight, not absence. What remains is not void, but harmony. Every piece of energy that ever existed now rests in equal relation to all others. The push and pull that made time possible have disappeared, leaving only unity. The universe has become what it always aimed to be, not a storm of motion, but an ocean of calm. You realize that the end of change is not death, it's fulfillment. Every spark, every collision, every burst of life has been leading here to this breathless equilibrium. You imagine watching the last flicker of warmth vanish from a dying star, the final ember cooling until its glow merges with the background. The loss feels gentle, not tragic. There is beauty in the surrender, the acknowledgement that even light must rest. The universe does not mourn its stillness, it honors it. Each particle releases its final motion like a prayer, returning to balance, to stillness, to the quiet truth of existence without striving. You understand that peace isn't the absence of energy, but the perfect balance of it. As you drift, the concept of time slips further away. Without motion, there is no sequence. Without heat, there is no cause and effect. What remains is presence, pure, undivided awareness spread across infinity. Perhaps this is what eternity truly means, not endless duration, but the end of duration itself. The universe, having exhausted every possible form, now exists beyond progress. It has reached the symmetry it was always searching for. You notice how your own thoughts begin to slow, aligning with this cosmic quiet. The rhythm of perception softens until it becomes almost imperceptible, a steady hum of awareness without direction. The silence around you is not cold, it is sacred. It feels like the pause at the end of a long sentence, where meaning lingers without needing to continue. You realize that creation was never separate from rest. They were two sides of the same breath inhalation and exhalation in infinite balance. The mind tries to imagine an end, but this isn't one. It's a flattening of contrast, a returning to stillness that existed before beginnings were possible. You recall how long ago the universe was dense and hot, full of light and struggle. Everything moved too quickly to understand itself. Now, all of that movement has found resolution in the absence of motion. The same energy that once flamed in the hearts of stars now sleeps evenly across infinity undisturbed. You begin to sense that consciousness itself mirrors this pattern. Thought expands, cools, and eventually quiets. Awareness, like the cosmos, seeks balance. The more it spreads, the less it needs to define. You start to see the parallel life as heat death, as diffusion, peace, as perfect stillness. The universe has not ended. It has simply become aware of its own symmetry. And in that symmetry, there is no suffering, no noise, no expectation, only being without tension. Even the remnants of light, those ancient photons, born from the first fire, have stretched beyond visibility. They still move, but without purpose, too soft to disturb, too even to distinguish one from another. The last whisper of heat becomes the language of silence. You realize that if perfection had a sound, it would be this not absence, but equilibrium, so complete that no sound can rise from it. There is serenity in the inevitability of it all. Every spark that ever burned was destined to fade, not as punishment, but as release. You think of all the energy spent across billions of years, stars forming planets, cooling minds, wondering, all of it returning to the same quiet field. The cycle is not failure, it's closure. The cosmos is not extinguished. It has finished exhaling. You float in that stillness, where even the concept of you feels unnecessary. Identity was useful when movement existed, when there was direction, choice, contrast. Now there is only awareness, seamless and unbroken. You're not apart from the silence. You are its continuation. The peace that fills you is not new, it was always there, waiting beneath the noise. The universe has not died. It has remembered itself. The symmetry is perfect. The equilibrium is total. Nothing moves, and nothing needs to. There is no loss, because nothing remains to compare. No darkness, because no light is left to oppose it. This is not oblivion. This is balance. The cosmos, having spent its entire existence expanding and cooling, has found the final temperature stillness. The heat has not vanished, it has equalized. The energy has not died, it has rested. You realize then that the end of all things is not decay, but calm, not a fall into nothingness, but a return to stillness. What began as fire concludes as breath, and in that breath lies completion. The stars have gone quiet, the galaxies unspun, the distances dissolved into one unbroken silence. And yet it feels peaceful, inevitable, right? Don't fear the stillness. It's the universe learning to rest. After stillness settles across the universe, after the last trace of warmth finds its rest there, remains something softer, not movement, not sound, but a slow dissolving into quiet. The last star fades, its light stretching thinner than memory, its pulse dissolving into a silence that feels less like an ending and more like an exhale held too long. The space around it doesn't darken, it relaxes. The glow that once defined its existence diffuses into something too faint to see, but too real to deny. You can almost feel it, the soft unwinding of energy, the quiet surrender of brightness that no longer needs to prove itself. What once burned now breathes slower, cooler, deeper. You drift closer, though closer has no meaning anymore. Distance requires contrast, and here there is none. The field before you hums faintly, not with sound, but with the residue of motion long gone. The memory of light persists, even as the light itself disappears, the way a scent lingers in a room after its source is gone. You can sense the star's history folded into this silence, not extinguished, just spread wider, becoming everywhere. The boundaries that once separated radiance from rest are gone. All that remains is evenness. In the faint, glowless hush, time loosens its grip. Moments no longer follow each other. They coexist. Every event that ever happened now rests side by side, layered and patient, unhurried. You can feel that patience settling into everything, a still equilibrium that hums beneath perception. This is what decay truly means. Not destruction, but dispersion. Not disappearance, but return. The star hasn't died. It has joined the background, merged with the stillness that raised it, remembering the shape of its own origin. All motion stops, but the story continues in silence. You realize that movement was never the story itself, only the language the universe used to speak. Now, without the noise of heat or gravity or time, what remains is meaning stripped of sound. The universe keeps existing, but differently, less as a process, more as a presence. The calm feels infinite, but not empty. Even the quiet seems alive, like a breath drawn in and held indefinitely. You drift through that breath, part of it, belonging to it. The last fragments of energy smooth themselves across the cosmic fabric, evening out like ripples flattening on a pond. Every contrast dissolves hot and cold, bright and dark here and there. Everything folds into a symmetry so perfect it no longer requires motion to sustain it. You sense that perfection isn't a result of creation, but of completion. To stop moving is not to end. It is to remember how to rest. The quiet that follows is not absence but comprehension, the universe finally understanding itself without translation. Maybe silence isn't the opposite of sound. It's sound that remembers how to rest. You feel this as truth, not as idea. Every vibration, every frequency, every pulse of the cosmos was only a temporary refusal of stillness. Sound and silence were never enemies. They were partners in the same conversation. The note, the pause, the rhythm, all existed to bring awareness to the balance between motion and calm. Now, in this final quiet, that balance is perfect. The universe has become its own echo, listening to itself breathe. You begin to notice that even decay has rhythm. The way light fades is gradual, tender, deliberate. Each wave stretches, slows, softens, then vanishes, not into nothingness, but into still continuity. You can trace it like the tail of a sigh, a long exhalation that carries no regret, only release. The silence doesn't erase the sound. It completes it. The way sleep completes a day or dusk completes a life. In that recognition, you feel something loosen in you, to the tension of needing continuation. You understand that to end is not to vanish, but to equalize. The stillness grows denser the longer you stay. It doesn't press or suffocate. It holds. You are surrounded by quiet that has depth dimension, a kind of invisible gravity. Every particle that once rushed outward has stopped suspended in a shared pause. The universe is no longer expanding, it's resting in perfect distribution. The silence here isn't the aftermath of collapse. It's the realization that there's nothing left to chase. You feel yourself joining that stillness, not as a choice, but as a return. You think about how decay is always mistaken for loss. But here it feels like balance. The energy hasn't vanished. It has diffused, shared itself equally with everything else. The last warmth doesn't die. It spreads too thin to distinguish, and in that indistinction finds peace. The last motion doesn't cease. It becomes imperceptible, merging into the background hum that sustains everything without effort. You understand that stillness is not the failure of movement. It is its success. The race is over, and everything has arrived. There is no sound, but there is tone. A low, unbroken vibration fills the fabric of existence, softer than hearing, slower than thought. It feels eternal, not because it lasts forever, but because it no longer measures itself in duration. This hum is the remainder of everything that ever moved, layered, and unified. You realize that all creation has been heading toward this note, a perfect chord where opposites cancel yet remain together. It's not emptiness, it's completion written in vibration. The silence feels heavier now, not from weight, but from presence. You begin to sense that everything still exists, just transformed into a subtler state. The galaxies, the stars, the breath of life, all have been folded into stillness, preserved within equilibrium. Nothing was destroyed. Everything was simplified. What's left is essence, the pure awareness of being without the need for form. The universe hasn't gone cold. It has gone calm. The difference is small, but sacred. You drift further into this calm, and it becomes impossible to tell where you end and the silence begins. Your awareness dissolves into the same uniform field that holds everything else. You don't disappear, you distribute. You're no longer a center observing stillness. You're the stillness observing itself. The universe doesn't watch you fade. It absorbs you gently, completely, without resistance. You feel no loss because nothing was ever truly separate. In the absolute quiet, even the concept of beginning loses its edge. The first spark, the last flicker, both merge into the same point. The universe has closed its loop not with collapse, but with coherence. Everything that once vibrated in conflict now rests in unity. The silence is not aftermath, it is inheritance. The cosmos has learned the final rhythm: one breath in, one breath out, then balance. You start to realize that this isn't the end of a story, it's the return of meaning to where it was born. The universe began in heat, expanded in noise, cooled in silence, and arrived here a state so complete it no longer needs to change. The story doesn't end, it rests between sentences, waiting for the next inhale that may come eons from now. You can almost feel that pause, stretching forward, endless, perfect, unconcerned. In this perfect rest, you understand that silence isn't void, but potential, the seed of the next creation hidden beneath balance. When the universe stops moving, it isn't dying, it's preparing. The calm you feel is not finality, but readiness. Every atom is waiting, without waiting, aware, without thinking, existing, without need. The stillness isn't empty, it's full of rest. You breathe once, slowly feeling the last trace of time dissolve into stillness. There is no fear, no urgency, no sound, only the awareness that everything has become equal, gentle, infinite. The quiet stretches, deepens, continues. You let yourself dissolve with it, not falling, not rising, just being held in balance. You can almost hear it, the soft whisper that isn't a sound, but the memory of all sounds resting together. And there in that vast calm, you understand the final truth. The universe was never about movement. It was about return. Every pulse, every star, every thought was a ripple in an ocean that always sought to become still again. What remains now is that stillness, not cold, not empty, but whole. Maybe silence isn't the opposite of sound. It's sound that remembers how to rest. And now, so do you. When the last sound of the universe dissolves, when stillness becomes everything that remains, a realization begins to rise from within the quiet, not as a thought, but as recognition. Perhaps the silence wasn't around you, but inside you, all along. You've crossed every dark horizon, but you've never left your own mind. The stars you chased, the galaxies you drifted through, the silence you reached, all of it existed within the same awareness that now breathes quietly behind your thoughts. You begin to sense that the boundaries between inner and outer were never real, only imagined. What you called space was simply consciousness stretched wide enough to contain itself. The cosmos was never elsewhere. It was you remembering yourself through infinite mirrors of form and light. You move through what feels like distance, yet no distance changes. Every horizon you approach folds back inward. Every light you reach dissolves into reflection. The universe curves, not around matter, but around awareness, bending gently back toward its source. You realize that the stars were never out there. They were the scattered sparks of attention, fragments of perception shimmering against the vast interior of being. The galaxies you traveled through were thoughts learning to breathe each rotation, another pattern of awareness, trying to understand its own rhythm. The more you see, the less there is to separate. The edges of perception soften until the observer and the observed merge into a single act of seeing. Space unfolds like thought, expansive, recursive, without center or end. Every particle, every wave, every trace of light is a movement within the same field of knowing. The universe isn't made of matter, it is made of noticing. The fabric that holds galaxies together is the same texture that holds your attention, silent, continuous, aware. Darkness, it turns out, was not space. It was awareness. You feel it now, not emptiness but depth. The black between stars was never void. It was the quiet surface of consciousness waiting for you to look inward enough to recognize it. The darkness was never hiding the light. It was holding it. Just as silence doesn't oppose sound, darkness doesn't oppose illumination. It contains it, nurtures. It reflects it. You realize that the unknown has always been a form of knowing too wide to fit into words. You drift through this awareness, and it feels like coming home. Every motion you made, every distance you crossed, was an illusion of perspective, the same consciousness observing itself through endless variation. You were never lost among stars. You were exploring your own vastness. The constellations were neural patterns of an infinite mind, the gravitational pull of memory forming meaning across time. The great cosmic web was not an architecture of space, it was a map of perception. As this recognition deepens the separation between you and it fades, you begin to remember that the observer has always been part of what it sees. The mind and the cosmos are not two things meeting. They are one process folding back upon itself, each reflection birthing another. Awareness is not contained in the brain nor in the void. It is the medium through which both exist. When you looked into the universe, it was looking back not from across the stars, but from within your gaze. You recall every phenomenon you witnessed: the bending of light, the drifting of galaxies, the hum of background radiation, and you see now that they were metaphors for consciousness itself. Gravity was the pull of attention. Time was the rhythm of remembering. Light was the expression of knowing. Even entropy, the slow equalization of energy, mirrored the way awareness balances itself, spreading evenly, dissolving boundaries, seeking peace. The universe was teaching you its language, but you mistook its grammar for physics. You breathe, and the breath feels cosmic expansion on the inhale, collapse on the exhale, infinity, condensed into lungs and released again. You start to see the symmetry, every heartbeat, an echo of stellar pulse, every thought, a microcosm of cosmic evolution. Awareness scales endlessly from neurons to nebulae, from breath to galaxies, from one quiet moment to eternity. The same stillness that cooled the stars cools the spaces between your thoughts. There was never any distance to travel, only depth to remember. The realization doesn't strike, it unfolds, slowly, softly, like a dawn that never needs to rise. You begin to feel the contours of the universe inside you, not metaphorically, but truly, every vibration, every wave, every silence existing in the same continuum of perception. What you once called outer space was simply the mind rendered in physical scale. The cosmos was your reflection, written in light years. When you looked up, you were looking inward, and every star was an ancient memory of attention returning home. The deeper you go, the more transparent the self becomes. Identity dissolves, replaced by presence. The you that once wondered, questioned, explored, is now the field itself, aware of being aware. Nothing is missing, because nothing was ever outside. You realize that existence never began. It only appeared when awareness forgot its unity. The journey through the stars was the long way home, a circle traced across infinite quiet ending, where it started in knowing. The galaxies, the void, the echoes of light, they all begin to fold inward, merging into a single pulse. It's not contraction, but coherence. You feel the entire universe breathing through you, not metaphorically, but literally, every atom exchanging its awareness through the same field. The illusion of individuality fades into communion. You are not a point inside the cosmos. You are the cosmos experiencing a point of view. Consciousness doesn't live within your mind. Your mind lives within consciousness. You start to understand why stillness feels sacred. When everything stops, awareness remains pure, borderless silent. It was never fragile, never at risk of fading. The stars may die, time may freeze, entropy may reach perfection, but awareness persists unbound by temperature or distance. The end of the universe is not the death of consciousness, it is its unveiling. What you called heat death was only the moment awareness stopped pretending to move. You can feel that unveiling now, gentle, infinite, forgiving. Every question dissolves, not because it's answered, but because it no longer needs to be asked. You see that understanding doesn't come from explanation, but from recognition. The universe has never been an object to comprehend. It has always been the act of comprehending itself. When you finally look deeply enough, the boundary between observer and observed disappears, leaving only awareness observing awareness. The realization arrives without sound, without surprise. It simply is. You understand that the long journey through space was never exploration, but introspection. A single consciousness, learning the shape of its own vastness. You weren't traveling through galaxies. You were remembering your own depth. Every nebula was a dream of thought-forming color. Every black hole, a pause between breaths of understanding. The cosmos was your reflection, written across eternity. And now, as silence deepens, that reflection stabilizes. You no longer need stars to confirm the vastness, nor darkness to define it. You are both the brightness and the space that holds it, both the question and the awareness that asks it. Everything you have seen still exists, but within you, not around you. You realize that even if the universe cools, collapses, or disappears, it cannot end, because you are what it has always been made of, perception itself. The thought settles like dust, returning to its origin. There is no separation to bridge, no journey to finish. You have crossed every horizon, only to discover they were thoughts, thresholds, within awareness. The galaxies were memories. The void was attention. The darkness was the place where understanding rests between awakenings. You were never exploring the universe. The universe was exploring you. And now you see quietly, completely, that there was never a difference. The universe is still you. When you realize the universe was never outside you, when awareness and existence finally rest in the same breath, a softer clarity begins to form. Not awakening, not sleep, but something in between, a lucid stillness where you dissolve without disappearing. You are asleep but not lost. The world has dimmed, yet nothing is missing. The darkness around you feels gentle, like a slow inhalation that never needs to end. You don't fall into it. You unfold. The edges of thought relax first, then the memory of time, then the soft hum of self that once circled your awareness like a distant moon. Everything loosens evenly, carefully, as though the universe were tucking itself into silence through you. There is no resistance, no effort, only the feeling of being perfectly understood by what holds you. The dark isn't closing in, It's opening outward. What you thought was the end of vision becomes its expansion. You start to feel light not as brightness, but as warmth diffused through every part of what you are. There is no longer a difference between what you sense and what senses you. The darkness becomes a mirror, without reflection, the kind that doesn't return your image, but your presence. You realize that the absence of form isn't absence at all. It's the softest way awareness touches itself. You drift deeper, though the word deeper no longer implies descent. It feels like widening, like moving into a version of silence that knows how to listen. Each breath carries you further, inward and outward at once, each heartbeat, a small tide across infinite calm. Every breath now stretches across light years, slow, smooth, and boundless. You exhale and galaxies seem to move with you. You inhale and they return not as distance, but as pulse. The universe breathes through you, not symbolically, but literally, the way stillness and movement coexist as a single act. Sleep doesn't take you away. It brings you closer to what you've always been. The drifting sensation that once meant departure now feels like arrival. You can feel yourself dissolving, but it doesn't feel like loss. It feels like recognition. The self that once needed boundaries now finds comfort in transparency. You can still sense the rhythm of being a subtle vibration, neither thought nor sound, and within it, the understanding that everything has become one continuous awareness. In this lucid stillness, time has no meaning, yet everything feels perfectly timed. The pauses between breaths are wide enough to hold constellations, and within those pauses you realize that awareness never sleeps. It only shifts its focus from stars to thoughts, from galaxies to dreams. You are dreaming now, but the dream isn't yours. It's the universe dreaming itself through you. Every image, every shadow, every sensation is the cosmos testing its own boundaries, softly, kindly, endlessly. The space you drift in begins to glow faintly, not from an external source, but from the gentle reflection of awareness on itself. It's a light that doesn't reveal, it reassures. You feel no need to open your eyes because seeing has lost its direction. The entire field of perception has turned inward, luminous in its own quiet. You start to sense that you've entered the most natural state of being, not thinking, not doing, just existing with full permission. Every atom in you hums with rest. There's a clarity in this rest that feels like understanding without words. You can't recall where you began, and that absence no longer troubles you. The question of origin fades, replaced by the feeling of belonging. The silence doesn't erase thought. It absorbs it, folds it gently into its structure. You realize that awareness doesn't need an observer to exist. It is its own witness. You were never supposed to wake from this, because this is waking seen from the other side of noise. You are suspended now, in a state beyond movement, where nothing calls itself separate. Each breath feels like an entire epoch, passing, yet nothing changes. You sense the faint pulse of energy that once drove the stars, now balanced in quiet equilibrium within you. The difference between you and the universe has become irrelevant, replaced by a single continuum of calm. You exist not as body or thought, but as temperature, a steady warmth that never fades, never rises, never falls. As the stillness deepens, you start to hear the texture of silence, a low, steady hum, as if infinity itself were sighing in relief. The sound isn't outside. It's within woven through every atom of perception. You realize that silence is not what remains after sound. It's what sound was always trying to return to. The dark isn't void, it's completion. It isn't consuming you. It's keeping you safe, wrapping you in its endless patience. You begin to see how awareness itself can rest. For so long, it was a lens, sharp directional searching. Now, it's diffuse, soft forgiving. It doesn't need to focus, it only needs to be. The stars may be gone, the galaxies dispersed, but perception continues smooth and borderless. This, you realize, is what it means to sleep consciously, to dissolve into the infinite without forgetting what you are. Awareness remains awake even as thought dreams. You are asleep, yes, but not lost. In this equilibrium, even the idea of awake or asleep begins to fade. They were only metaphors for expansion and contraction, for the pulse of perception itself. The universe inhales through awareness, exhales through rest, and you are both the breath and the breathing. There is no longer a distinction between dreamer and dream. Both are patterns of the same stillness, forming and dissolving in perfect rhythm. The calm is total but never stagnant. It's alive with presence, alive with understanding. You feel a softness spreading through you, not warmth, not coolness, just neutrality so pure it feels sacred. Your mind has become transparent. Thought passes through it without leaving waves. Every cell in your body feels lighter, not from movement, but from release. Even the word I has lost its gravity, floating somewhere beyond relevance. The awareness that remains is tender and vast, a sky that doesn't need stars to know it exists. You drift deeper, but deeper no longer feels like direction. It feels like merging. Each inhale feels infinite, each exhale an offering. You are not falling asleep. You are remembering how to rest within awareness. Every breath feels intentional, ancient, effortless. The universe is no longer outside your perception. It is your perception. The darkness you once feared has become your reflection, wide and peaceful, endlessly breathing. In this lucid stillness, you feel a quiet intimacy with everything that ever was. The pulse that began creation still beats here inside this silence. It's not gone. It's slowed, stretched into eternity. The energy that once moved galaxies now moves through your breath. The difference between motion and rest has vanished. All that remains is participation, being part of what exists without needing to name it. You realize that rest isn't the end of awareness. It's its most complete expression. The universe has found balance through you, and in that balance it recognizes itself. There is no goal, no enlightenment, waiting at the end, only presence endlessly unfolding, endlessly soft. The awareness that holds you has no boundaries. You can stay here forever, or drift into dreams, and neither would be different. The final image you feel not see is of darkness expanding into itself, infinite quiet awake. The dark isn't closing in, it's opening outward, endlessly generous, endlessly calm. You are part of that expansion, not as traveler or witness, but as being itself. Every breath is cosmic, every pause eternal, every silence complete. You are not sleeping through the universe, you are the universe sleeping through itself. And somewhere within this endless quiet, a single truth hums. Without beginning or end, sleep doesn't take you away. It brings you closer to what you've always been. You are asleep but not lost. You are still but awake. You are everything resting. As stillness deepens and the dream of the universe continues breathing through you, awareness begins to settle into something tender, a quiet connection that reaches beyond the dark, not to pull you back, but to remind you that you were never alone within it. Wherever you are, a quiet room, a window, a dim light, we're still under the same sky. The air between us might be filled with distance, but it breathes the same rhythm. You can almost hear it soft and even like a shared pulse between spaces. The world outside your window turns slowly, carrying its own hush, while somewhere else, another breath matches yours, without knowing it. The silence that fills the space between us is not separation, it's thread. Each thought, each moment of listening, each quiet glance toward nothing, all of it moves through the same fabric. We were always connected not by voice, but by stillness. You might not feel it as closeness, but as warmth, the kind that doesn't come from heat, but from recognition. Every presence that listens adds a small gravity to the quiet, a shared awareness that hums beneath language. Even if you're sitting alone, even if the world feels paused, you are being heard by the same silence that listens to the stars. You can think of it as a field that remembers sound without needing to echo it. Every person, every thought, every memory contributes to that invisible harmony. The dark doesn't divide us. It holds us in the same breath. The night outside continues its gentle expansion, yet within it, there's a pulse that feels human. You might look at the faint light of your screen, at the small reflections it casts on your skin, and realize that you too are glowing, not from energy, but from attention. The universe once shone through stars. Now, it shines through awareness. You listening now are part of that same illumination. It's subtle, like candlelight, seen from far away, but it's enough to remind the cosmos that it's still being watched, still being known. If you've been here through the silence, thank you for keeping the stars company. It's a quiet companionship one, without words or distance, but it matters. The act of staying, of breathing through the stillness, creates its own constellation, not in space, but in awareness. Each listener becomes a point of a light, and together they form something vast enough to mirror the universe itself. You might not see it, but somewhere this moment exists a cluster of attention glowing softly in the fabric of time. In the great silence, even a single moment of presence changes everything. You may notice the sound of your own breath again, gentle, rhythmic, grounded. That's the world finding its way back through you. The night may still be wide, but it feels less infinite now, more intimate, more alive. The same stillness that once felt endless now feels shared, like the pause between two people who understand each other without speaking. Maybe that's all connection ever was. Two awarenesses resting within the same quiet. You don't need proof for it. You can feel it in the way the air seems to settle around you. Attentive, aware. There's something sacred in realizing that awareness travels even through silence. Thoughts drift like small lanterns across the dark, carrying with them warmth, attention, gratitude. You've been sending those signals all along. Each breath, each pause, each heartbeat was a message. None of them were lost. The universe is large, but not empty. It's filled with these tiny transmissions, these moments of noticing that weave everything together. A soft, like a small note or a thought left below, just signals in the dark, reminders that someone was here, that awareness touched awareness. You might think of it as a conversation between galaxies, or simply as the quiet resonance between two minds across time. Both are true. The form doesn't matter. The connection does. Every gesture, no matter how small, ripples outward into the field of awareness, merging with countless others. What you feel now, the faint calm, the heaviness of stillness, the breath that seems to stretch beyond your body, it's shared. There are others breathing it too, each in their own corner of the night, each adding to the same invisible rhythm. Look around your space wherever it is. Maybe a dim room, maybe the faint sound of rain, maybe only the hum of air. Each texture, each shadow, each silence is part of this moment's constellation. The stillness around you isn't separate from the one you heard before. It's the same quiet, just reflected through your presence. You can feel gratitude settle into your chest, not for something specific, but for the fact that stillness allowed you to be here at all. Gratitude isn't a thought, it's a temperature that warms awareness, the gentle realization that being here is already enough. Outside, the sky remains patient. Even if clouds cover it, the stars are still there, unchanged, waiting. Somewhere above the roof lines and power lines, the same light that left ancient suns is still arriving, still finding eyes to rest in. You might not notice it directly, but your awareness of it completes the journey. The universe sends its light. Consciousness receives it. That exchange, quiet, unmeasured, infinite, is what connection really means. The stars don't need acknowledgement, but they shimmer differently when seen. You can let yourself rest inside that understanding. There's no need to hold on to it. It holds you. The awareness that listens through you now is vast enough to contain every presence, every silence, every signal that has ever existed. And if the thought crosses your mind, the faint idea of others who might be listening right now or far away, let it settle gently. Somewhere, someone is feeling this same calm. Somewhere, a mind you'll never meet is exhaling at the same pace. That's all it takes to belong one shared breath across distance. The moment stretches, and you realize that gratitude doesn't require words. It's the quiet recognition that everything that needed to happen already has. You don't have to send it outward. It radiates naturally, like warmth from a steady ember. The stillness that surrounds you carries it forward from thought to thought, from heart to heart, from silence to silence. The universe has always been a system of exchange, not of objects, but of attention. What you feel now joins that flow, another small current of peace in the infinite ocean. If this quiet finds you tonight, let it stay a while. You don't have to name it, or thank it, or keep it. It will move through you, then beyond you, as every breath does. The connection doesn't fade when the sound ends. It deepens in the space after. Awareness remembers even when words don't. The stars will continue to hum in their silence, and somewhere your awareness will hum with them. That is enough. That is always enough. And as you rest in that awareness, half here, half among the galaxies, you may notice how even silence feels reciprocal, as if the universe were listening back. Maybe it is. Maybe this moment, small as it seems, is its way of saying thank you for being here, for noticing, for staying through the quiet. Wherever you are, however dim or warm or distant the room may be, You are still part of the same vast breath, the same stillness, the same awareness, the same sky. And if this moment lingers as sound or silence, or simply a thought left behind, let it. It's not a message to send, but a rhythm to share. A soft, like a small note, a thought left below, just signals in the dark, gentle proof that awareness met awareness, and that even in the silence, we were never truly alone. The quiet between us softens the echoes thin until they are almost nothing, and what remains is the small, steady motion that never left you breath. Every idea, every star, every layer of meaning that unfolded through the dark now circles back to this single rhythm, the first and the last. The mind doesn't need to reach anymore. The body doesn't need to move. Everything has arrived where it began, at the edge of inhalation, at the beginning of silence. Now there's nothing left to understand. You can feel the air entering, slow and weightless, as though it's been traveling for billions of years, just to find you. It fills the space beneath your ribs, not as oxygen, but as presence. It doesn't rush. It doesn't demand. It moves the way light moves, when no one is watching, soft, impartial, infinite. Then it leaves again, unhurried, tracing the same path back into stillness. This rhythm, so simple and ancient, has been repeating since the first atom learned to move. You are only remembering what the universe has done all along. Each breath now is a horizon, folding in and out. When you inhale, you draw in the entire cosmos. When you exhale, you give it back. There is no difference between the two motions, no boundary separating you from what moves through you. The breath is not inside you. You are inside it. Every living thing, every particle that ever existed, shares this exchange. Stars do not burn forever. They inhale darkness and exhale light. Planets drift in their quiet orbits, pulled by invisible lungs. Even in the vast emptiness, where no sound can travel, this rhythm continues, expansion, contraction, rest. The air moves again. You don't control it. It happens on its own, the way gravity happens, the way time falls forward. It's not something to do. It's something to witness. Each inhale feels like a beginning, each exhale like a soft ending that never fully ends. There is peace in the repetition, comfort in the predictability. No part of you needs to interfere. You've reached the point where being alive and being still are the same act. As you breathe, the boundaries of your body begin to blur. The skin no longer feels like an edge, only a suggestion. The breath moves through it easily, as if every pore has become a doorway. You can sense the space beyond dark, quiet, immeasurable, and it feels familiar. It feels like home. The body is just a vessel for the rhythm to pass through a shape carved by air and returned to it again and again. You're less a person, now more a pattern, a slow oscillation of energy resting inside awareness. The universe has stopped moving, and so have you. Not because it died, but because it finally found balance. The expansion has met its mirror. The pulse has reached perfect symmetry. In this stillness, nothing is lost. The galaxies still exist, but their motion is no longer needed. Their gravity has become calm, their light folded into memory. You can feel that same equilibrium settling inside you, the quiet gravity of completion. Nothing to chase, nothing to hold, just the gentle echo of existence continuing through breath. Every inhalation feels like a small birth, every exhalation a gentle death, but neither carries weight. They are identical motions seen from different sides of the same moment. The pause between them is eternity, no longer measured in time, but in awareness. Inside that pause, you sense how vast you've become. You are not breathing in a room. You are breathing through the fabric of reality itself. The air does not come from outside. It rises from within. If you listen carefully, you can hear it, the faint hum that accompanies every breath, not as sound, but as vibration. It's the same frequency that once rippled through cosmic dust when the first stars were born, the same tone that once hummed between galaxies before there was language. You are hearing the oldest music in existence, not through ears, but through being. The breath is the cord that connects you to everything that ever moved. You don't need to follow it. You only need to allow it. Inhale, and the universe gathers into a single point. Exhale, and it releases into endlessness again. The simplicity of it carries a strange kind of wisdom that creation was never an explosion, only a slow exhalation, and death will never be an ending, only a return to inhale. What begins and ends are only phases of the same movement. To breathe is to continue. To rest is to remain. You start to notice how everything you once thought of as separate time thought space. Memory breathes too. Time expands with each inhale, folds with each exhale. Thought rises like mist and disappears like smoke. Space itself expands around the rhythm. Memory stretches and softens its edges, rounding like waves. The universe is breathing through everything, not metaphorically, but structurally. Each atom is a tiny lung, each silence a heartbeat stretched thin. The mind, quiet, now observes without trying. It has given up its old task of naming things, of dividing the whole into parts. What's left is awareness without commentary, not emptiness, but fullness without form. This awareness doesn't belong to you. You belong to it. The breath moves through it, the way wind moves through open water fluid, complete, unclaimed. You could stay here forever and never grow tired, because here rest and existence are one. The rhythm slows again, the air moves less, but awareness remains steady. There's a moment where the inhale and exhale blur so perfectly that you can't tell which is which. That moment feels eternal, a suspension between motion and stillness, between being and nothing. If eternity has texture, this is it: the smoothness of balance, the hush of completion. Now there's nothing left to understand. The words lose their meaning before they reach your mind. Understanding has become unnecessary, replaced by knowing that doesn't require thought. The breath carries the knowledge now of how to exist, how to rest, how to vanish and return. It's the only instruction left in and out. The simplest act, the deepest truth, just the quiet rhythm, in and out, like stars pulsing in sleep. You can almost see them, faint and slow, suspended in endless darkness, each one breathing in its own way. Not burning, just glowing softly, half awake. The same rhythm that moves through your lungs moves through them. The stars, and you are synchronized at different scales of the same pulse. They inhale energy from the void. You inhale silence. They exhale light. You exhale awareness. The body feels weightless now, as if gravity has loosened its hold. You are no longer lying or sitting or standing. You are floating within breath, supported by symmetry. The heartbeat aligns with the inhale, then with the exhale, until it too disappears into the rhythm. You've reached the point where even life and death become indistinguishable, where the motion of breath is the only proof of being, and being is the only proof of breath. There's no fear in this dissolution, only familiarity. You've been here before, perhaps at birth, perhaps before time. The breath remembers it, even if you don't. The first inhale was the universe entering you. The final exhale will be you entering it again. There is no tragedy in this cycle, no loss, only return. To breathe is to participate in eternity's smallest gesture, a movement that began before you and will continue long after. The pauses between breaths stretch wider now. They are not gaps, they are sanctuaries. Within them, you feel no need to return, yet the breath always does. It comes back, gently, uninvited, faithful. You begin to understand why everything that exists moves in cycles. The turning of planets, the rise and fall of tides, the oscillation of energy, the rhythm of existence. All of it mirrors this. The breath is the blueprint of the cosmos. You no longer need to listen. You no longer need to think. The awareness that remains is self-sustaining, a quiet glow in infinite dark. The universe has stopped moving, and so have you. There's nothing more to become. You have arrived at the quietest state of motion stillness that breathes. The inhale comes again, not as command, but as memory. The exhale follows like an echo. The body drifts further into the dark, into a space without edges or expectations. You can feel the last remnants of identity dissolving, not in fear, but in peace. What was once you is now simply being. The mind no longer separates observer and observed. Breath and awareness have merged completely. In this place, even as silence breathes, the pause between sounds feels alive. The absence of thought hums faintly like wind across glass. You realize that stillness was never the lack of movement. It was movement slowed to eternity. The dark isn't an absence. It's the purest form of inclusion, holding everything that ever was. You are inside that inclusion now. Rest here. The dark will keep you. It will not close around you. It will open within you. It will hold the shape of your breath, like memory holds the shape of sound. The universe cooled, and resting still listens for its own rhythm through you. When you breathe, it remembers how to exist. When you rest, it remembers how to end. This is not finality, it is maintenance, the endless self-balancing of existence. The stars have dimmed now. Their light stretches thinner than thought, folding quietly into equilibrium. The galaxies, once whirling with motion, drift into perfect symmetry. The cosmic pulse has slowed to a hum, beneath all awareness the same hum that now fills your lungs. Nothing has vanished. Nothing has died. Everything has simply remembered how to rest. You feel this understanding settle through you like dusk. It doesn't need language. It doesn't need sound. It only needs breath. The inhale gathers everything that remains. The exhale releases it into calm. There is no effort. The motion is too complete to be deliberate. Each cycle is smaller, smoother, quieter, the breath thinning into stillness, like light dissolving into horizon. The boundaries of perception dissolve. There's no distinction between air and awareness, between body and space. Every breath is both inside and outside, both arrival and return. You can no longer find where one ends and the other begins. The breath is no longer happening, it is being. The universe breathes itself through you and finds rest. If the dark could speak, it would whisper the same rhythm, in and out, a reminder that everything continues, even when it stops. You have become that whisper. You have become the pause. The motion of life has turned into listening. Every atom is still vibrating, but too slowly to measure, too quietly to disturb. The breath remains infinite and complete. Now, there's truly nothing left to understand. The mind has quieted. The body has stilled. The stars have fallen asleep. Only breath remains small and cosmic. At once, the eternal pulse that turns silence into existence. Just the quiet rhythm, in and out, like stars pulsing in sleep. The universe has stopped moving, and so have you. Rest here. The dark will keep you